Hi, welcome back to me talking about my version of The Marauders in podcast form with Emma. Me and Emma are both pretty tired today, I would say, but we're here for a good time, because Emma's going on vacation for a while. It's gonna be sad.
It's gonna be fun.
We're gonna have some visitors, but yeah, so might be the last one with Emma before she leaves, or we might do like one more if you come back from the beach, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you have the questions, so.
Did you watch Heartstopper?
No, I haven't watched Heartstopper yet. This is a problem. I literally need to do it like this weekend. Like I just have to sit down and watch it, and like that's it. But
will there be a Jeffrey return?
Jeffrey's always there. Jeffrey's always hanging out.
Will we hear about him, though?
Yeah, I'm sure. If I don't forget, then yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, how can I fit him into this episode, like, right now? And it's just not even, like, anywhere near Hogwarts. Yes. He's just there. Oh my gosh. That would be hilarious. Oh, I think also in that list, I think somebody asked if Jeffrey has like a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And I think that's something we need to consider for sure. I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I don't know if there is an answer.
Will we see Jeffrey?
Yes.
This is what the people want to know.
We will. Jeffrey is here. I promise, guys. I'm sorry. I keep on forgetting whenever I'm writing, but I never forget him in my heart. Okay, ever. And Emma never forgets him because she always holds him in every video.
Yeah.
If you don't watch on YouTube, you're
Jeffrey
missing
fan.
out. Really?
Yes.
Do you like the podcast?
No.
Oh, dang
Just
it.
Jeffrey.
Just Jeffrey. Is that it?
There was a lot of questions about Jeffrey.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Do we have any other interesting questions? I can tell them about the last 24 hours of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm currently dog sitting for a dog that has never left its owner's house. Like, no, it's left its owner's house, but the owner has always been with this dog, always taking care of this dog. This dog is 9 years old and has never been separated from its owner. And so I was like, yeah, I can do that. Dog is super sweet, not a problem. Yeah, the dog is absolutely terrified of me because I'm not its owner. And she's freaking out, and it's just been so interesting because she was so sweet when I met her. She was like the cuddliest little thing, and then as soon as her owner's out, she's like turned on me. She bit my hand a bunch. It's just, yeah. I have a Band-Aid, and I should have put a Band-Aid on that one too. So yeah, I can't bend my middle finger anymore because of that dog. And I just felt bad because she was so, like, she's not like an aggressive dog. She was just terrified, you know? As I would be too if there was this person who was always with me 24/7 and then just left. Like, no. Oh my gosh. But it's just one more day, so it should be fine. I texted Emma and I was like, sorry, this dog thinks I'm trying to murder it. I'm not. I'm just trying to get it to go outside, and it considers those to be the same thing at this moment in time. Because she was so scared. Oh my gosh. Anyway, do you have any interesting stories? Anything at work?
Oh, this one kid got pickle juice dumped on him. No.
Pickle?
A kid dumped pickle juice on one of the other counselors.
Oh. Purposefully or?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
My water bottle got thrown off the hill.
Oof. That's kind of tough. Didn't a kid, like, refuse to tell you his name?
Yeah. We found out that kid's name, though.
That's good.
This one kid wouldn't tell us his name. That was the same lunch the guy got pickles dumped on him.
Oh, my gosh.
But this one kid wouldn't tell us his name, and we didn't know his name, so we just started calling him random names, and then we just all called him Eugene for a day, and then today he told us his name was Austin.
Austin is a legend. That's a Marauders level prank. Just people being like, what's your name? Like, no.
He was like, I don't know. We were like, okay, Eugene.
Oh my gosh. But somehow people would still guess that James is named James. They'd be like, okay, James. And he'd be like, all right. Do we just want to vibe on in?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Let's
I'm sure
timer.
we've said that before, but I know we're trying this new thing where we're filming with just my phone, but on 4K mode. I don't know. The quality might annoy me, but if it doesn't, and if it ends up transferring to my computer well, yeah, we might have a better time doing it. Hi, this is Elizabeth editing here to let you know that it did not end up working better. In fact, it was significantly worse somehow. So we're gonna keep on using my crappy camera. Not that you cared, but yeah, let's get back into the video. So this episode is gonna be very Lily centric. So we're gonna get a lot of Lily, cause it's her summer, let's be honest. I don't care what's happening with Sirius. This is her summer.
Yeah. She can actually do things this summer.
Yeah. unlike
So we're hearing about her.
literally everybody else. Oh my gosh. All right. Oh yeah. So she's vibing. She's having a good time. So we're gonna pick up kind of after. So if you remember, the whole thing was Petunia last time, and she was like, "I'd love to spend some more time with Vernon. That would be just absolutely so much fun." So they ended up having dinner, and it was just. She hated it so much, and it was like with her and her parents and stuff, but she was like, this man just won't stop talking, like all the time, just talking. And she's like, and it's just like about nothing at all, like he just is talking. And she's like, why? And it's like about, like, I don't know, what does Vernon talk about? Drills?
Yeah.
That was his whole personality trait in all of the books. Was just, hi,
Drills.
I know about drills. So yeah, maybe that starts now. Maybe this is him entering his drill phase. I don't know. But yeah, so after this dinner, she's like completely drained. She's like not having a good time. But yeah, so anyway, she goes upstairs after the dinner. She's like, oh my gosh, had so much fun, Petunia, whatever. Goes into her room. And she has a letter from James. Now, for some reason, I decided to write out these entire letters. So you're just going to get to hear me read them. So yeah, this is from James. It says, Evans, how's your summer so far? Mine's been odd. My parents have been worrying about Sirius and the war, and we'll just go up and whisper, and I think things are getting worse, but I'm not sure how. I haven't noticed much in the Prophet, but clearly my parents have. I miss Sirius already. He's usually not even here at this point in the summer, but for some reason knowing he's not coming back is making it worse. On top of that, Remus wrote to me today and said his parents don't want him visiting me at all because they don't know that we know about his furry little problem. Long story. Anyway, as much as I love Pete, I'm kind of hoping it won't just be spending the summer with him. He always gets going on about chess and ends up hanging out with my dad more than me. All this to say, I hope we can find time to hang out this summer if you're not too busy. I will warn you, if you come over here, my mom will absolutely lose her mind. She's already trying to plan things. I think she cried when she found out Remus might not be able to come over this summer either. I really hope your summer has been better than mine and not too boring. I know you wanted an exciting summer, so just remember what I told you. Right back soon. I'm so incredibly bored, James. So, a good time. And so Lily's like, awesome, I'm gonna write back. And she was like, I can come over tomorrow, like, let's hang out. But then she's like, let's think about this for a second. The last time we were alone. Almost
She's
kissed.
like, let's bring Vernon.
She's like, yeah, let's bring Petunia. I'm sure it would be so great. No, but she's like she's been trying not to think about it, trying not to read too much into it. But yeah, so she was like, he had just found out about Sirius. He was like upset, like didn't even know what he was doing. Like, I don't know, it shouldn't, what? Like, no. So yeah. But then at the end, he was like, will we see each other again? And she was like, yeah. She was like, okay, did he mean like a date? Like, I don't know what this is. And he was just like, we should hang out if you have time. She's like, that doesn't sound like a date thing. So she's kind of freaking out. So anyway, so she's like, listen, as much as my actions might prove otherwise, I kind of just like being friends. I kind of just like where we're at. Anyway, so this is the letter that she writes. James, well, crap, that sounds miserable. Sorry to hear about Remus. I'll have to try and call him tonight, yes, on a telephone, and see if he's all right. I'll be sure to ask my mom if we can hang out sometime, although I doubt that she will let me leave anytime soon since I've just gotten back. That's her trying to be like, we're not, I don't know, man, we're probably not gonna hang out. Anyway, she says, as for my summer, it's been alright until tonight's dinner. I made the unfortunate mistake of trying to be kind to Petunia, which resulted in a dinner with her betrothed. Yes, she and Vernon are getting married. Well, actually, he still hasn't given her a bloody ring yet, but still, it appears to be legit. Anyway, I've just gotten done with the dinner, and can promise you I will no longer complain about the quality of your jokes. His were worse. His were actually worse than Seb's most of the time, and it was just so unbelievably dull. Do you know how horrible it is? Do you know how horrible it feels to be sitting across from someone who clearly thinks that they're better than you because they're older and male, and have him explain things to you in such a condescending way? You know, all to help you prepare for the future, when he doesn't know your future fully includes literal magic, something he doesn't even know exists. It was awful. What makes it worse is it made me realize something for the first time. When she marries him, the statute of secrecy is no longer in effect. Is she planning on telling him about me? I can't think she would want to, but she'll probably have to. I mean, if he's my brother-in-law, I hated writing that, just so you know. He should know that I'm a literal witch, right? Anyway, I'm not looking forward to that conversation with Petunia. In regards to my summer, I was absolutely correct that I would be bored after a year like we had. Not being able to use magic is worse than it has ever been. I feel, and truly I hate to tell you this, James, that I simply have to break a rule. You're so lucky that you live in a magic household where you can get away with using magic if you like. For me, it's hard. In spite of my boredom, I haven't thought of anything to do. My ideas are either boring or will get me arrested. I'll be sure to update you when I think of something interesting, though. Lily. I don't know. I had a fun time writing those letters. But yeah, Vernon, he ends up finding out about Lily. Like, we know that from the books. So yeah, I gotta think of how that goes down, you know? But yeah, so Lily was only partially honest in that letter, though. Like, yes, she missed, like, the excitement of being around the boys all the time. But there's, like, so much to catch up on in the meantime. And she's like, that's one thing that, like, James is never gonna, like, quite understand, or Peter, or Sirius, but maybe Remus, is, like, how much, like, just culture happens when they're gone, that she's not a part of. But the biggest one for her is music. And in the past year, Queen has released another album. It's the Day of the Races album, which is my favorite album. So it's, like, constantly on repeat, and her mom is, like, complaining because she's like, I already dealt with this with your dad earlier in the year, like, literally what's going on. But no, just, like, so much music. I'm gonna be honest, 1976 is my favorite music year of all time. It's my favorite. Honestly, 1976 is my favorite song. If I'm being honest, no. But yeah, so she's just trying to, like, soak in everything. She's just, like, going shopping and getting as many new things as, like, her parents will let her. But yeah, and she loves this point in the summer, like, because I listen to your comments, people. People keep on messaging me and being like, Elizabeth, these 3-month summers are American things. They don't exist in the UK. We have 6-week summers. And I'm like,
sad.
I know. Well, they also get super long breaks at other points in the year.
But still.
But I'm like, here's the thing. It's Hogwarts. So they get 3-month summers. That's what I'm saying. But at this point, nobody else is out of school yet, and so she can just, like, kind of do whatever she wants and just, like, have a good solid time and just catch up on everything before, like, you know, I'm sure she has some childhood friends that she catches up with, but at this point, it's, like, just her time. Like, she's just vibing. Because everybody else is in school. So she is living up her life, but eventually she does have to call Remus, to check in with him. And that whole experience was a whole other thing. So she calls him, and to her surprise, like, he's always just answered the calls, whenever she calls, but it wasn't him that answered, it was his mom. And she's like, hey, I was just wondering if, like, Remus is around. And she, like, pauses for, like, a solid while, and then, like, very sternly is like, who wants to know? And Lily's like, oh, shoot. She's like, hi, sorry, this is Lily Evans, from Hogwarts. Just wanted to chat, not trying to do anything. But then his mom is like, oh, you're still friends, are you? And she's like, yeah. we are still friends. She's like, okay, well, I'm sorry, he's out at the moment. I'll let him know you called when he gets back. And she's like, oh, like when is that gonna be? And she's like, bye, and like hangs up. And Lily's like,
Jeez.
well, shoot. Remember, his parents are like freaking out about like him like even having friends as a werewolf, and so he's been friends with somebody for over a year, and they're like, I don't know about that. Um, but yeah, so Lily gets hung up on it, and she's like, well, shoot. That's probably not good. Probably should have written to him before I called and like gotten that all cleared up. But yeah, and so she's just like waiting for a while, like probably about an hour, until Remus calls her back. And anyway, he's annoyed. he picks it up and he's annoyed at his parents. He's like, oh my gosh, they don't let me do anything. And he's like totally trash talking them. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm like, they're the worst. And she's like, calm down. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. He's like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but he's like, yeah, I actually got home like not long after you called, but I had to literally convince them that like you were fine and it's a whole other thing and like everything like that. And then it was a whole other ordeal to try and get them to like let me call on the line in their room so that they wouldn't be like listening in, because like they just have like, pretty much one large room. And stuff. And then she's like, are they listening? And he's like, no, M's in the other one. She's probably listening though. Like just on the other phone. But yeah. But anyway, so they end up talking and it's like just normal and nice and everything. And they catch up and he's like, yeah, everything's super stressful, but having a good time with Emily, and it's all good. Um, and then he's like, how have you been? And she's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something interesting to do. And she tells him like the advice that James gave her. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. He's like, have you ever snuck out before? And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm just asking. She's like, yeah, I've snuck out before. He's like, you haven't, have you? And she's like, fine. And so he's like, okay, then you should sneak out. And she's like, what am I gonna do if I sneak out? He's like, I don't know. Sounds interesting. He's like, I don't know, find a boyfriend, sneak out to see him, because that's what Sirius did. And she's like, dude. But yeah, and then he's like, you could also like, I don't know, steal something. That might be fun. She's like, dude, like, I'm just trying to think of like good, clean fun, good, wholesome fun. And he's like, you should sneak out and steal something. But yeah, he's like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of things. But then he's spitballing the most wild ideas. And he's like, have you ever tested your innate magic before? And she's like, what? He's like, the magic you don't have to think about. Like, when you were a kid, like random things would happen. That magic and the stuff that like saves witches and wizards from like dying from like big falls and stuff. Have you ever tested that? And she's like, why would I want to do that? He's like, I don't know, it might be fun. Figure out something fun to do. See if your magic's gonna protect you or not. And she's like, you have to be like in life or death situation in order for that to protect you. Yeah, anyway. He's just having a good time though. But at the end of the call, Lily's like feeling too sentimental to think of anything for real, and she just like wants to like hang out with people, be with the gang again. Like after she's talked with Remus, she's like, dude, like miss that. But yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to happen unless she wanted to hang out with James alone, because Peter has been MIA. Like, who knows what's going on with him? And then these two can't do anything, and she's like, But yeah, and so she's like, honestly, not trying to hang out with James alone after the last time we were alone together. Like, I don't know if I just, not sure how I feel about that. But, maybe it'll have to happen. Who knows? But, yeah, and she's like, and James is just always so honest about his feelings, like way too much. And he's gonna want an answer. Like it's happened twice now. But anyway, after just all of those ridiculous suggestions from Remus, Lily's kind of like, honestly, might be better with a boring summer. Might be boring with a good solid summer, just alone,
Staying
like
out
the
of
rest
jail.
of them, staying out of jail. Maybe not stealing things, Anyway, so the next morning. Remember Lily's parents own a bakery, so she has a shift at the bakery this morning, and just has been doing it to keep her mind off of everything, stop her pointlessly thinking about James, as she has been recently, and working is fun. Working is a good time, but mostly she likes working because now that she is not the same person she was last year, essentially, she can just have a lot of fun with the customers. So I think Lily is definitely the type of person who she's like, I'm not going to get fired from this because it's my parents. So she can just do whatever she wants. She can just mess with the customers in any way that she wants. Um, so she's like, it's 2 hours into her shift, and she's already pretended to have literally never heard the name like Jenny before, like in her life. She's like, James? Is that what you said? Did you say James? No, Jenny? I think you said James. Um, and then she also claimed that dogs were like Russian spies to somebody and like told them this whole conspiracy theory. And then also, of course, told somebody that magic was real, but she couldn't use it around that person because it's illegal, you know.
Of course.
You know, the typical things. But no, she's gotten really good at like knowing like who's like local and who wasn't. So she didn't do these to anybody that are like legit customers. Yeah. It's just like people wandering in. But yeah. But for the most part, you know, everything's on track to be a normal day until three, like, kind of older kids, like university age kids come in. And they're, like, ordering and, like, you know, being completely normal. They just want, like, pastries or whatever. But because they're just a couple years older, Lily's, like, not messing with them. Like, she's trying to be like, we're chill, you know? And she's like, hey, like, what are you doing for the rest of your day? Like, what's going on? And they're all just like, oh my gosh, we literally just landed tickets to see Queen in London tonight. And she's like, oh my gosh. And they're like, yeah. And she's like, okay, it literally sold out right away. Like, my dad tried to get us some for, like, that whole tour. And they're like, no. I also did do my research. Yes, this tour is real. Yes, it did happen in London in early June, which is when this is. Anyway, don't worry about it. But yeah, she's like, okay, literally my dad tried so hard to get us, like, any tickets. And they're like, yeah, but, like, our friend's mom, like, works, like, at the venue. And we just, like, got it. And she's like, oh, my gosh, that's so awesome. But anyway, and so, like, as they're leaving, she's like, yo, you know, you got an extra ticket or something? And they're like, no, we don't. And so she's like, haha. But then they leave. And she's like, literally, she's like, I want to go to that so bad. Like, I have just been obsessing over this album. Yeah. And then the plan hits her. So let's switch over to James. Let's check in on how James is doing. So it's late afternoon, and James has just been, like, chilling in his room. It's the same day. You know, trying to go through, like, all this stuff and, like, clean out a little bit. And then his family owl just, like, shows up at his window. And he's like, wasn't really expecting anything from anybody. But, like, whatever. And he's just like, it's probably from, like, Marlene or somebody. And they'll just drop the letter and, like, dip, you know? But then the bird, like, yells at him, you know, as birds do. You know, I don't know. And he's like, okay. Yes. And he's like, okay, what the heck? So he goes over and he realizes it's not a letter. It's, like, just a note. Like, it's not even, like, folded up or anything, like, not in an envelope or anything. And it just says, I'm on the street by your house, outside of, you know, your, like, magic protection or whatever. She says, want to join me for something I would have never done in 5th year? From Lily. And James is like, oh my gosh. And so he just, like, he gets his stuff together and is, like, trying to look good or whatever. But then he, like, goes downstairs and his mom's like, where are you going? He's like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, for how long? He's like,
I don't know.
I also don't know that one. And she's like, just take your wand. Oh my gosh. And so he does. And so he dips and they, like, have this huge property. And so he, like, goes out to the main road. And there's Lily with... with her dad's 1970s brand new convertible. But yeah, so he's like, oh my gosh. She's like, that is insane. Where did you get this? She's like, it's my dad's. He's like, he let you drive it all the way here? And she's like,
no.
Well, he doesn't really know I have it. And James is like, oh my gosh, you stole a car. And she's like, literally, just get in. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, so he gets in, and, you know, they start driving, and he's just like, I can't believe you did this. And he's like, okay, like, what are we doing? Like, is this a big thing? Like, did you just steal a car and we're just gonna go, like, drive around? Like, this is so exciting. And she's like, no, we're going somewhere. He's like, oh my gosh, where are we going? And she's like, we're seeing Queen. And he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know she was someone you could just, like, go and see. He's like, that's so awesome. I'd love to meet her.
Oh my gosh.
And Lily's like, not the Queen.
Not the Queen. No, we'll just pull on in and say hi.
He's like, oh, and he's like so disappointed, but she's like, it's the band. And he's like, oh, I guess that's kind of cool too.
Let's go see the queen.
He's like so disappointed though, but like trying to not be disappointed. Sorry, that was the stupidest joke I wrote in this thing, but it was so funny. But yeah, he's like, I don't know, that's kind of cool too, though. But then he's like, okay, like, I've heard Sirius talk about this, but like, I've heard that like tickets are like insane to get. Like, how'd you get them? And she doesn't say anything, and she's like, he's like, how'd you get them, Lily? And she's like, so turns out I did not get tickets. And he's like, are we gonna like go pick up tickets? She's like, there are no tickets. And he's like, so how are you planning? How are we gonna get in? And she's like, why do you think I got you? And he's like, oh my gosh, are we gonna break into a Queen concert? And she was like, I was kind of planning on it. And he was like, bet, let's do it. No, but he like starts just like laughing because he's like, literally, what the heck are we doing? Like, you stole a car and now we're gonna go and break into a concert? And she's like, yeah.
To meet the queen.
To meet the queen. But yeah. But no, I've just always had this image of James in like muggle clothes, which has to include a jean jacket for sure. That is his staple muggle item. Okay. It's just like in a convertible with Lily driving down like the British countryside, and he just stands up and starts yelling at the wind like a dog. And he's like, yeah. So he's very happy about this whole situation. He is like, I've never been in a car before. This is awesome. And she's like, you literally fly on a broom? This does not seem nearly as awesome. And he's like, this is like so cool. But yeah, he's like, flying is like lame compared to this. Like, we're so close to the ground and like it's not magic, like insane. But anyway, so yeah, so he's just like, he's literally just standing like basking in the wind as she's driving because there were no seatbelts in the 70s. But anyway, after that, after like a good amount of cars like are around and it's less of a countryside, she's like, okay, you literally have to sit down. And he's like, fine. But anyway, so they just have a blast. They're chatting it up. Lily's explaining like all of these different muggle things, and she's like, you know what you would love? You would love a roller coaster. And he's like, what's that? He's like, oh my gosh. And like explaining it, he's like, that sounds so cool. And she's like, again, you ride a broom like all the time. You literally fly, but that's fine. But yeah, they're just chatting it up. Lily is explaining muggle things that should not be as exciting as he thinks they are, but you know, he thinks they're very exciting. But yeah, the best part is like, it's not like awkward like Lily worried. Like, she was so worried that James was gonna be like, so what are we? And she was gonna be like, but no.
James is like, it's a car.
He's like, yo, look at this car. But yeah, and so, you know, it was just, James didn't mention anything, and she didn't mention anything, and they're like, oh, awesome, like, this is great. And they didn't talk about, like, anything, like, sad, like, when James is like, dang, Sirius would have loved this. She's like, okay, let's not do that. He's like, you're so right, we should just enjoy this and not, you know, talk about that. But yeah, they're here for a good time. But yeah, at one point, James, this is the one cute moment, okay? The one singular. But anyway, at one point James just kind of gets quiet and he just like is looking at Lily and she's like, what? And he's like, you look really good. And she's like, what about that? He's like, no, like seriously, you did not have that shirt at Hogwarts. It looks so good on you. And she's like, what the heck, James?
She's like also wearing a jean jacket.
Literally. Honestly, that would be cute. That's canon now. But anyway, but she's like looking over and is like trying to see like, is he like trying to flirt right now? And he's not. He's just like, that's a really good shirt, Lily.
He just likes jean jackets.
He really does. But she's like, thank you. Like it was new. And he was like, yeah. He's like, and your makeup, you got like sparkles there. He's like, that's so cool. He's like, remember when you put me in makeup? That was really fun.
He's like, remember when I turned all of us red and gold for like a week?
He's like, you should try that with your makeup. No, but no, she's just like, it still just makes Lily blush because like, what the heck? It's just James. He just says things like that. But anyway, but yeah, but then she blushes, and instead of being like, man, she blushed at what I said, he said, oh my gosh, you're literally so excited for this concert, are you? She's like, yeah. But she is. She's like, honestly, like, so excited. He's like, okay, we're gonna make it memorable then. Alright, so they get to London. So, they arrive, and James is so excited. He's never really been to Muggle London before. He's only been to, like, the magical London, and he didn't really realize it was, like, a huge city. He just kind of thought, like, it was a town that, like, the magic part was just attached to. And he's only ever been to, like, he's been inside Muggle London a couple times, but mostly just because, like, Sirius would, like, take him to, like, these dingy places and be like, they're cool, and he'd be like, okay. But anyway, so now he's like just so excited because it's like, there's so many things going on and stuff like that. And I think they probably like come across like a tourist outlet, and James like wants to buy like 50 postcards. She only lets him buy 20, but like
Just 20.
but he's just like, and he just keeps on looking at them and like laughing so hard because he's like, they don't move and they're selling these things. He's like, they're just standing still.
And she's like, yeah, and you bought 20 of them.
Literally. And also there's telephone booths everywhere, so it's like very exciting, But yeah, they don't really have like a ton of time to spend in London though. Just like they just like grab some food before the concert and then like are making their way over to the venue. I looked up the name of the venue, and now I forgot to write it down for a second because then I fell down a rabbit hole of, anyway, don't worry about it. But no, this was a legit Queen, like, concert that happened in London, in 1977. So, in June. So yeah, that's the vibes. Anyway, but yeah, so they just started like starting to make their way over, but Lily like has to leave her car parked like in street parking. So yeah, so she has to park the car, and it's like stressing her out because she's like, this is really expensive and my dad's gonna kill me if something happens to it. And James is like, it's alright, we'll just put like a protection spell on it. And he just like starts pulling out his wand in the middle of the street. Lily's like, what are you doing? And she like shoves it back, and it's like inside his jean jacket like pocket, and he just like unsheathes the wand. And she's like, put it back. And he's like, what? And she's like, there are muggles everywhere. And he's like, they're not paying attention. And she's like, they're gonna pay attention if you pull out a wand and do a spell on the car. She's like, James, just because you've never like had to actually pay attention to the statute of secrecy doesn't mean it doesn't exist. She's like, we can't use magic like at all. And he's like, but he's like, it's not like anybody at the ministry is gonna be able to trace us. Like, I'm sure there's tons of withers in London, And she's like, okay, it does not matter if a muggle sees you and they're everywhere. Like, she has to really explain this whole thing to him because he's never had to deal with it before because he's never really been in like a muggle space before. But yeah, and then like after they like start walking, he's like, did you even bring your wand? She's like, yes, I brought my wand for emergencies, but it's for emergencies only. He's like, so you're expecting an emergency? She's like, James. He doesn't understand it. But anyway, so as they're getting closer to like this, stadium place, they both like pause like about, a ways away. And they're like, okay, we gotta, like, observe. We gotta see what's going on. And then we gotta, like, actually figure out how we're supposed to do this. And so they're just watching as people, are, like, there's a super long line of people. And the tickets are being checked, like, multiple times. Like, there's security everywhere. Like, this is a big deal. People are trying to, like, buy last minute tickets and stuff like that. So it's just, like, tickets are being checked a lot more strictly than she was hoping. And she's like, shoot, what are we going to do? And so they, like, think about things. They're like, maybe we can sneak this way. And it's just not going to work. And so she's like, literally, how are we going to do this? He's like, well, let's go around the back. So they go around the back. And there's, like, this truck full of music equipment. And that people are, like, loading into the place, And so there's all of these, employees and stuff. But it's all, like, in a gated area, So James just starts climbing the gate. And Lily's like, what are you doing? Like, get down here. He's like, nobody's watching right now, and it might be the only time. Like, let's go. And so he just jumps over it, and then he hides behind the truck. And she's just standing there. And then she's like, shoot, now I gotta follow him. So she does. And so now they're, like, behind behind one of the trucks, but there's just all of this stuff, and there's just like roadies like prepping things, but she's like, it's like so close to the concert, like it has to just be like backup stuff or something like that, or like, if they're gonna like, practicing stuff or something, it's not the legit stuff, they know for sure, but there's still people like loading things in, and it's like a backstage entrance back here. So eventually they're like hiding behind the truck, and they finally like find like the door where people are like going through, and there's like so many people around it, like people are just like hanging out, like people are like on a smoke break, and it's just like, they're like, shoot, this is gonna be worse than trying to get in at the other place, we can't just sneak in. And she's like, James, like, this is not gonna work, we gotta like actually figure out something else, because this is just like, it's not gonna happen. um and so she's like, we're not gonna be able to sneak around these people, and James is just standing there, and he's like, how rich do you think this band is? She's like, what? And he's like, how much money do you think they have? She's like, James, they're the most popular band like ever right now. Like, they're pretty rich. And he said, okay, good. And then there was just a lot of amps and monitors stacked next to them, and he just shoves them all to the ground, and they're like break, and it's like really bad. And she's like, what the heck are you doing? And he's like, go, go, go. And he motions the other way around the truck. And so all these people from the door coming over and are like, shoot, all of these amps just broke. And they managed to like sneak in the door, like just throughout that. And Lily is like, literally, what the heck? But then he just like pushes her down like a random hallway, and they're just like speed walking because they're trying to look casual, but like stuff. And they just like go in. But yeah, so they managed to make it in. But yeah, and it was just so stressful, and so then they're finally like in like a secluded hallway, and they just stop for a second, and they're like breathing and just like like they just are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did it. And then Lily's like, oh my gosh, you're literally so insane, why would you do that? And he's like, relax. He's like, looked like they already had like all the important stuff set up. It was just like, I don't know, something random. And she's like, what if it wasn't, though? What if we just ruined the entire concert? And he's like, literally, they're rich. They'll replace it. And she was like, fine. But anyway, even though she was annoyed, she like can't stop grinning. She's like, oh my gosh, we literally made it in. Like, how did we do this? And she's like, okay, but it does start in 20 minutes. Where are we? And he's like, I don't know. And so they just have to start like walking around, because where the other people were going, where the employees were going, was like very clearly backstage, and so they're like under the stage at this point, or something, and there's just like it's just so many hallways and like random storage rooms and something, and all of the signs are just like, here's where backstage is, and they're like, we don't want to do that. So they're just like trying to figure out where the exit is, but like also seem like they belong there, and so they're like trying to be all confident and stuff. But yeah, and so like a couple people pass them, and James is just like pretend you know what you're doing, and it was fine, and like everybody was just, yeah, the people managed to ignore them. Until they were walking past a security guard, and they must have looked a little bit too guilty, because he stops them and is like, okay, where's your backstage passes? And Lily, like, almost breaks down. She's like, shoot, we're gonna be ruined. But James is like, do you have any idea who I am? and the security guard is like, not buying it. He's like, I just need to see your passes, dude. He's like, no, sir. I can't believe it. And he's like, I can't believe it, darling, to Lily. And she's like, okay, I guess I'm a part of this. He's like, he has no idea who we are. And Lily's like, really? I can't believe it. And he's like, oh, I can't, like, and they're just like trying to do it. It's like, you clearly haven't been paying attention to your superiors. And the guard is like, literally, just give me your backstage passes. I don't care. And then James, like, has clearly been stalling for a while, but then he finally is like, I, good sir, am a long-time close friend and confidant. Sorry. Confidant.
I'm confident.
I'm very
Let
confident.
me in.
Literally. He's like, of Mr. Mercury. Do I have to remind you who Mr. Mercury is right now? Or do you know who he is? The security guard is like, Yeah, sure. Just give me this backstage pass. I really don't need a whole thing. James is like, I'm sorry. It's just we don't have it on us because most places where we've already been, most of the other places on the tour haven't required it. I've been with Freddie every leg of this journey, and I haven't needed it because most people know who I am and stuff. And he just starts randomly listing cities that were like that are in the UK and that he's just really hoping are on the tour. He was like, I was with him through Bristol and and Lily's just like, man, I hope you get this right. But then he's like, and Cardiff and the man is like, okay, hang on, this tour has not been through Cardiff. And he's like, well, no, you wouldn't be aware of that one, seeing as it wasn't open to the public and it was a private performance for Princess Diana herself. And Lily's like, what the heck? And he's like, right? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And Lily just looks at him and is like, it was. Were you aware that Princess Diana loves Cardiff? And also Freddie Mercury. And and they're like expecting it to go downhill. They're like fully expecting to get thrown out. But that actually lets them through because completely unknown to them, Freddie Mercury had visited the princess earlier that day. And so the security guard knew about that and he's like, oh shoot, like they know that, okay, anyway. But yeah, so anyway, so the security guard finally lets them go and they just like start cracking up because they're like, what the heck even was that? How did we get away with that? But anyway, and then finally, like 2 minutes later, they find a door that leads to the lobby. But first, we're going to pause for a second because I love that Freddie Mercury and Princess Diana were like friends. Did you know about this?
I did not know.
Okay, well, apparently one time, this is, people speculate whether it's real or not, but one of Freddie Mercury's friends said that they snuck Princess Diana into a gay bar one time and like dressed her up as a gay man and just like were in there and like she said that she loved it because nobody recognized her and it was like crazy. But yeah, so they were like actually friends, but it wasn't really well known until like after both of them died, I think. But anyway, so that was kind of a real thing, but I'm just a very big fan of them being friends. I think it's great, and since this is my version, it's real, and I don't care what anybody else says. But anyway, so they finally get to like the lobby and like where everybody else is, and they're like, oh my gosh, finally. And so they just like they finally walk in, and it's just like huge sigh of relief from Lily, and then she starts laughing, and she's like, I cannot believe we did that. I cannot believe we pulled it off by saying that he's friends with Princess Diana. That's literally insane. And James is like, I know, I can't believe it either. And then he reaches into his jacket pocket and he's like, and I can't believe we did it without this. And he pulls out his freaking invisibility cloak. And she's like, dude, why would you do that? She loses her mind and is like, I can't believe you did it. He's like, we had more fun. And that's what you wanted, wasn't it? She's like, honestly, it was really stressful. But yeah, so anyway, so he had an invisibility cloak the whole time, but didn't use it. But yeah, so let's talk about the concert, So yeah, so the concert itself. As soon as the concert like starts, like she forgets that she was ever like upset with James for having the freaking invisibility cloak the whole time. But yeah, so because like they're still like checking tickets pretty much everywhere, they were only able to like sneak into like the back, like the back. Very back, but Lily still had the time of her life, and so did James, honestly. But James is just like fascinated. He's like, the lights, and like they made the music so loud with like just like those without magic.
We met
like he's like, that's insane, But yeah, he's like, I can't believe people do this without magic, and he just keeps on like saying that to Lily, and she's like, dude, like you're watching it, like anyway. But Lily is just like dancing like crazy. She knows every word to every song, which James is like, that's impossible because there are too many songs. James is not a music person, but he's happy to be there, he's vibing.
He's down for the sneaking in.
He's down for the sneaking in. He's down for the lights, He's having a good time. But at one point, again, just something, ever since I thought of this story, it's just something that has had to have happened. So this, I just think that, like, Lily's having the time of her life. James is like not really super near her and just like having a good time. And but James is also like not paying attention to the actual show as much as Lily is. So he realizes that this one dude is like, kind of checking Lily out and thinking she's looking cute and stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna murder that dude. And then he's like, hold up, hold up. This so far has been a very platonic night, and I think she's probably trying to send me a message that she would like for us to be like just good friends, because like there were many opportunities. She hasn't done anything. Okay, anyway, so he was like, so instead he decides to like go up to Lily, and he's like, she's just here for a good time, and he's like, hey, that dude's like looking at you, he's been very interested in you. And she's like, oh. And then, she looks at him and like kind of flirts back, and they continue to make eyes at each other for a while. And then James is like, okay, are you gonna do anything about it? Because you've just like been looking at each other. And she's like, no, I'm gonna like wait for him to do it. And then he's like, that seems like something you would have done in fifth year. And she's like, oh my gosh. And so then she has to. And then she walks over to this dude and like they say like 2 or 3 words, and then they're just making out. And James is like, what the heck? Like already? But he's just like in utter shock, and he's just kind of laughing or whatever. Until another girl comes over, pulls Lily off, and is like, that's my boyfriend. And James is like, oh shoot. And then he has to run over and like get Lily because this girl's trying to fight Lily, and the dude was like just clearly like not a good boyfriend, but like Lily's like, listen, he was the one, he started this whole thing, and the girl's not believing it, and it's the whole thing. So anyway, Lily and James have to like probably use the invisibility cloak to disappear and get away from this because that girl's mad. But yeah, just another random thing that has to have happened. But yeah, and so later they're in like a different section at this point, and she's like, I can't believe, and she's just at James, she's like, I can't believe that you told me to go for it. I'm really regretting that. And he's like, listen, he was giving you signals. I was just trying to help out. He's like, and he kissed you back. Like, what the heck? And she's like, that is fair. But anyway, for the rest of the night, they, more stayed together. But then a girl started kind of doing the same thing to James. And Lily's like, okay, well, you should go for it. He's like, I'm not risking it. Are you kidding me? You saw what just happened? He's like, I'm not trusting the people at this concert. Like, there's something else going on here. But no, they just both can't, like, stop laughing about, like, the whole thing. It's just a solid good time. But yeah, they're just very, like, giggly about this whole situation. But then, as all good things must, it came to an end. And Lily just like feels like she's like in a daze. Like she can't hear anything, because it's a concert. But she's just so happy. And James was too. He's like, I have a new love for music, and Queen. That was pretty awesome, and lying to muggles. He did like that as well.
Good for you, James.
Yeah, he's having a good time. But yeah, so then they drive home, of course. And it's fun, but like much more quiet and stuff, but because they're just exhausted, like especially Lily. And also this is like an hour away. Like it's a full drive. Like they should, yeah, anyway. But yeah, so Lily's just like exhausted, and James is like, listen, I can drive for some of it. And she's like, you hadn't been in a car until today. He was like, no, but like I could do it. She's like, no, no, dude. But yeah, so anyway, eventually she drops him off at his house, and he's like, okay, you're like really tired. You should like come in and like have, cup of tea, something to wake you up a little bit. And she's like, that's probably a good idea. But she's like, okay, but also your mom has already been freaking out about me coming over, so like, don't want to see her. He's like, okay, we'll just have it outside. So he goes in, he gets tea. They sit on the porch and talk for a little bit longer, just like in awe about the concert in general. And he's like, I'm gonna have to like actually listen to some of the albums that Sirius left with me. Like that was pretty awesome. And she's like, yeah, I know. But Lily's like, okay, but we have to visit Muggle London now, like, and for real, and do like all the touristy things. And James is like, oh my gosh,
you can buy more postcards.
He's like, oh my gosh, can I get more? Yeah, they're like all like it has to be an enchanted pocket in his thing, and he's like, look at these postcards, Lily. He sends them to like everybody he knows. But yeah, so anyway, but yeah, so he's like, yes, I need to do that. And so they plan on it for like a week from that day. And they're like, okay, we're going to do this. And so, eventually, caffeine from the tea. Lily's like, okay, I'm good to drive home, it's all good. And so James walks her back to the car, and like she's like, oh my gosh, that was such a fun night, thanks for like doing it and being crazy. He was like, okay, it was literally your idea. I'm always gonna be down. If somebody's like, hey, I'm here, let's do something, I'm there, I'm doing it. um but yeah, and he's like, and please include me if you decide to do something stupid again, like steal a car and drive several hours to see a concert you don't
sneak into a concert.
She's like, you don't even have tickets to. But yeah, and she was like, I will. And so she leaves. But of course, Effie knew. I want to make that clear real quick. Effie was not asleep. Effie had been like waiting up for James to get back and was in the kitchen when he went in to go get the tea. But when he was like, yo, I don't really want to talk about it that much, she was like, okay. But she definitely like saw them, and she was like, what the heck is going on here? But yeah. But anyway, so James really didn't want to talk about it, because really, he was like, what was that? He's like, that was definitely, he's like, it felt like a date. It felt a lot like a date. But, like, she also kissed another dude, and also, like, tried to get me to kiss another girl, and, like, it didn't feel, like, romantic. Like, it didn't feel like, oh, we're leading up to something, or, like it was just fun, And so, but he's like, but that definitely, like, was a date. Like, his mom was like, what did you do? And he's like, well, we went to a concert together. She's like, that's a date! But yeah. But yeah, in spite of all this uncertainty, he was like, I still can't wait to, like, hang out with her again. I can't wait to go to Muggle London. And he's like, I can't wait to, like, have another, like, whatever that was. Like, that was so much fun. But yeah. So, we're gonna fast forward a little bit. We're almost done. How long has this been? Oh, it's been about the same length as the other one. But yeah, so he couldn't wait. And so, but he does have to wait for another week. But anyway, so they had planned for the next thing to be, like, a morning situation, like a day trip thing. Yeah. Also, she's taking her dad's car with his permission this time, because she definitely got home, and he was like, that was my baby. Like, you took it, and I can't believe you, Lily. But yeah, and then she was like, I saw Queen in concert. He was like, it's okay. Yes. It is okay. No, because she definitely, I feel like they were chill, and, like, she could still tell him. Even though she's, like, definitely broken, he's like, it was worth it, It's all good. But yeah. But anyway, so, but no, they're planning on leaving in the morning, and so, like, it's the night before, and James, like, cannot sleep. And he's like, why? He's like, it's not even a date. Like, I know this. She's probably gonna tell me to kiss another girl again. Like, it's not a date. Like, why am I stressed? But it's literally, like, 1 a.m., and he can't sleep, which is, like, what? Like, he has to get up for his run tomorrow morning. Like, what is he thinking? And he's, like, never, like, awake when his parents are asleep, Like, it's just, his parents are, like, late night owls, and, he's the opposite or whatever. But yeah, so he's just like, I need to do something about this. So he, like, goes downstairs and, like, is gonna get, like, a sleeping draft from the kitchen. So, he's making it. He's telling himself, like, I'm being so stupid about Lily. Like, she's just a friend. I need to stop thinking about, anything else besides that, because we just had a good time, and, like, honestly, I just want to have a good time, and that's fine. It's all good. But yeah. But then he's sitting there, he's looking out on the beautiful landscape as he's, about to, have his little sleeping draft, whatever. And he, like, I can't describe to you what I want the Potters, like, property to be. Just, like, a bunch of, like, just trees, but, like, there's also probably a lake or something, But it's just so pretty. And then there's paths, like, all throughout it. They just live in a park, like, if we're being real here. But, his mom always wants, like, at night, like, she has these, like, light orbs that, like, light all the paths and stuff, so it's just so pretty and just, like, gorgeous. And so he's just looking out, having a good time. And then something appears in the middle of one of the paths. And it's, like, a huge thing. And James is like, oh, shoot, what the heck? And so he, like, practically drops his mug and, like, grabs his wand, and he's like, okay, shoot. And he, like, goes out, and he's trying to squint, trying to see what it is. And it, like, looks like some sort of animal. And then he, like, goes to, like a glass door that's, like, right off the kitchen. And he's holding his wand, and he's, like, freaking out. And then he's like, oh, shoot, no, that's a human or something. And it just stood up. And it's a human, like, and something else, like, large and something.
Oh, no.
And then he's like, what the heck is this? And then, the person stands, and he's like, oh my gosh. And for a second, he thinks it's Regulus because of the short hair. But then, as the light from one of the orbs, like, catches his face, he's like, oh my gosh, it's Sirius. So he yells for his parents, for his mom. He throws the door open. He runs outside. And as soon as he reaches him, he just, like, pulls Sirius into, like, the tightest hug. And Sirius is just, like, crying. And it's not a good time. And the other big thing was the trunk. It's not anything else, like, dangerous or whatever. It's just, like, his trunk. And so, James just like holding on to him, just freaking out. His mind is racing, and then he's like, Regulus, do we need to go get Regulus? Like, is he coming? And Sirius just like holds James tighter and just like shakes his head no. And he like can't even get anything else out. And James is like, it's okay, it's okay. But yeah, not really knowing what to do, but just Sirius needs help. And then he hears his parents come down, and they're like running to him, and he just says, it's all right, Sirius, you're home. And that's the end. I'm so sorry. I tried to have fun, but that needed to happen at some point, and it's okay. It's allowed. Maybe.
When you were like, it was like an animal, I was like, maybe you did just go right, Jeffrey. And then I was like, no, it's gonna be serious.
I should have done it. He's like, and there was a deer behind him, and it was Jeffrey. It would have lightened the mood quite a bit. No, but I was thinking, I should just put Jeffrey, like, at the Queen concert. Like,
he was there. He was in, like, the royal booth section. Him and the Queen were up there.
Him and the Queen and Princess Diana. Or I'll just, honestly, Jeffrey being besties with Princess Diana.
Royal family.
Honestly, no, but those two being besties, canon. It's canon now. I don't care what anybody else has to say. They were best friends. I need to, like, get a picture.
That private concert was actually for Jeffrey, but they just had to say it was so it was like, oh yeah, we're having a concert for a deer.
Okay, no. Here's the thing. I think that I have to get a picture of Princess Diana and then just Photoshop Jeffrey. Just like chilling with her. And that's the thumbnail. That's the thumbnail for this episode. So yeah, Jeffrey was in this episode. Jeffrey was like, no, I think it is funny. As funny as it is to have like a private booth for Jeffrey, I think also him being in like the shadows of the backmost part, like right where they're at, just staring at them with like his scarf billowing, is also a pretty good look, And Jeffrey is here for a good time. Yeah, for the next couple episodes, we just have to think of where Jeffrey was at the end. And, like, that's the recap, But
it helps when you end them so sad.
I'm sorry. People are always like, why do you end on cliffhangers? And I'm like, well, it gets you to come back. Like, what am I gonna say?
That's the point of cliffhangers.
Yeah.
You're like, and everything was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, nobody's gonna come back if I do that. Yeah, next episode is gonna be a little bit sad. And then there's a happy one, and then there's possibly a 2-parter, happy sad thing, end of summer.
So what you're saying is the happy one is gonna be the one that I'm not here.
Oh shoot, you're so right. Like. You're so right. I'm so sorry.
I'm here for the plot though.
Yeah. You're gonna hate me. You're gonna be like, why am I doing this? But you know what? You've done this for a year, so you can't
more than
leave.
A year.
Yeah, over a year now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening. Shout out to Metamorph Matis for the art and Benji Wilson for the music. Really appreciate it. Yeah, well, hopefully we're gonna be doing stuff more regularly, but maybe Emma won't be here next time. We don't know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye!